I mean, the growth is huge. You know, the amount of interest that we have is high.
Fascinating stuff from Amber Dixon here about carbon. No, I'm intrigued because it's definitely a key sort of area. All the ISO standards have changed. They're now asking the question about climate change as well. And although that question isn't specifically saying go and get carbon, that is a natural kind of assumption by some people.
That behaviour.
Yeah, it's kind of pushing people towards it as well, I guess. What's the number? What, you know, by customer volume, what's the growth been like over the last sort of few years? Is it like going through the roof, or what does it look like?
I mean, the growth is huge. You know, the amount of interest that we have is high. You know, we're having a lot of conversations with people where we're trying to put people on a journey. You might have seen, you know, we spend a lot of time working on the tools and resources that we provide, the training that we deliver as well, so that I think we try and acknowledge that not everyone is here just yet, but we're trying to lead them on a path towards it. But yeah, I mean, the numbers going up and up every year. Our team's growing, the amount of verifiers that we have is growing, and it's been really positive. So yeah, on the up.
Superb. And then and that fits as well. I mean, we're talking about carbon like past 2060, past 2080, 1468, so on. But there's the other standards as well. So all of the standards now ask the question about climate change, but actually we shouldn't forget 14,001, 50,001. How do they, have you seen a sort of a progression for companies that are going between those standards and into carbon?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, at the moment, it's probably a little bit of a split between the clients that we have that are coming to NQA purely for carbon, and the clients that we have that are not transitioning over, but sort of weaving into it from a management system standard, which is interesting, but it's not clear sort of either way at the moment. It's been quite varied. I think it lends itself well to being comfortable with compliance already, because a lot of the requirements in the carbon standard, whilst it doesn't call out for a manual, not that our ISO management system standards necessarily do either, but a lot of the practices that you have in terms of data quality and organisation leadership all feed into these standards and support it and complement it well anyway. So I think that's always a positive thing, but it's not something that is critical to move forward with.
Yeah, so people that don't have 14,001 can still do carbon. And I think you're right, actually. There's probably a view that people have management systems in place and therefore it's just another flavour of another management system. But actually past 2060, 1468 is more about knowing your numbers and really understanding your business. And then you can get that. What I find interesting personally is that if you've got that sort of schedule of what you're buying and what where your carbon emissions are, that's genius in terms of setting environmental objectives as well, because you just know so much more.
And they really work well hand in hand. We've got clients that have that, and like I said, if you're doing that really well and you've got your aspects and impacts, for instance, from ISO 14001, or your risks and opportunities, and they can feed into each other, and we've seen that work really well in the past. So it's something that we think is great, but it works well without it as well.
Sure.